It is Tuesday. It is June 24th. And it has been, 5-6 days since the Karen Read verdict. It is time for us to have a chance to talk about the Karen Read verdict, to talk about everyone who has been talking after the verdict. Today, we're going to talk about the interviews that everybody has been giving. Brennan gave a statement. D.A. Morrissey gave a statement. The police union gave a statement. The Massachusetts State Police gave a statement. The Canton Select Board gave a statement. So many statements. So we're going to Boston News 25 first for this interview from elected DA Michael Morrissey.
Do it.
We're going to do that first. Norfolk DA Michael Morrissey releases 4-word statement on Karen Read verdict. The jury has spoken. Norfolk County DA Michael Morrissey. I mean, yes, they have, but not even any punctuation. The jury has spoken. If you are the DA, there's not much more for you to say because people really want to know, why did you hire Brennan? Why did you pursue this second trial? Like, there's a lot of decision making that everybody wants to hear. I want to hear. But yes, the jury has spoken. This is from yesterday morning. Good morning, Ted said. This is a statement from Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan on the Karen Read verdict. I am disappointed in the verdict and the fact that we could not achieve justice for John O'Keefe and his family. District Attorney Michael Morrissey appointed me. Why? Giving me full discretion to independently assess the case and follow the evidence no matter where it led. After an independent and thorough review of all the evidence, I concluded that the evidence led to one person and only one person. I'm fighting the urge to just give commentary sentence by sentence, but on this point, I must digress. There are plenty of cases where that may be true, that the prosecutor in charge, the district attorney in charge, the elected DA might conclude that the evidence led to one person and only one person. You then have to take the next step and determine that that can be proven to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt. So even if Brennan believes that the evidence only pointed one direction, you still have to take a step back and say, but can I prove it? Even if that's what you think. I'm not going to argue with his opinion on the evidence. Even if that's what you think, there is one more step to that conversation. And that is, can you prove it? And the job of a prosecutor is, even if you believe it and you cannot prove it, you cannot proceed forward. Special Prosecutor Brennan said, quote, I concluded that the evidence led to one person and only one person. Neither the closed federal investigation nor my independent review led me to identify any other possible suspect or person responsible for the death of John O'Keefe. He is using the closed federal investigation to do some lifting here that I don't think it's that sentence's job to lift. Because I don't think the federal investigation, and this is speculative on my part, I don't think they were investigating to try to find an alternate suspect. I think, based on everything that we've seen, that they were investigating to see if there was bias in the investigation, if there was impropriety in the investigation, if it was a thorough investigation, not that they were trying to say some other dude did it. Those are two very different things. And he kind of just lumped them all together there, didn't he? The statement, neither the closed federal investigation nor my independent review led me to identify any other possible suspect, doesn't flow with me because the investigation at the beginning missed steps that I think would make it difficult to find an alternative suspect. And I feel like this is just a red herring statement in here. It is a kind of a straw man argument. When I look at this case, I look at, does the evidence point to Karen Read? And is that evidence beyond a reasonable doubt? And does all the evidence square together without you having to like squint an eye and go sideways? We are moving away from the it's all on Karen Read and I am disappointed from Brennan to the rest of his statement. The campaign of intimidation and abuse that has been waged, funded, and promoted in public and on social media is the antithesis of justice. If this type of conduct becomes commonplace, it will threaten the integrity of our judicial system, affecting both victims and the criminally accused. Now, I don't think he's talking about all the same things I just talked about, but I don't understand what the principle being there has to be process. And this also includes those going after witnesses on either side or jurors. That I don't disagree with. It will affect our justice system in a very, very negative way. He goes on to say, we cannot condone witness abuse, or the jurors or the participants or the accused or the victim's family, like everybody, not just witnesses, everybody, the experts, everyone. It should be participants. We cannot condone witness abuse causing participants to worry for their own safety or that of their families. Any of the participants, any of them, period. It is my hope that with the verdict, the witnesses and their families will be left alone. Also, the accused, also the jurors. He doubles down. The harassment of these innocent victims and family members is deplorable and should never happen again in a case in this Commonwealth. Brennan, if people are doxing people, aren't there privacy laws in Massachusetts that can be used? The DA's office should go after all of it then. Go after all of it. I don't think they will, but they should. But it should start with protecting the jurors. And at the end, he closes with, my heartfelt condolences to the O'Keefe family and faith that over the coming years, they will find peace and closure. I don't even know how I would rewrite that statement because I'm just so confused. And then at the end, it says Hank Brennan. I also hope the O'Keefe family is able to find peace and closure. I think it's kind of hard when the investigation was not helpful. I also think it's helpful to call out all of it. No one connected to this case should be harassed, doxxed, threatened. No one. Not a word about thanking the jury for their service. I like Morrissey's statement better. It continues to feel like the prosecution in the Reed case did not prosecute a case, but tried to defend all the parts of the case. And I think one of the things that was so difficult during this trial was that we were watching two defense attorneys act like defense attorneys. But I don't fault Attorney Jackson and Little and Yannetti and Alessi for that. I don't fault them for that. They were doing their job. They were defense attorneys. It's their job. But it felt like Brennan was also defending law enforcement, defending the investigation, defending the witnesses. It felt like he was defending the case. But it was his job to prosecute the case. And at many aspects in the case, there were times where he was leaving open multiple possibilities. And that's exactly what defense attorneys do. If all of these things are possible and realistically possible and reasonably possible, then that's doubt. It is the job of prosecutors to say, this thing is what happened. Even in his closing, he was talking about possibilities. That's doubt, though. There can't be other possibilities. And if you think about some of the cases that you've watched, you look at those cases and go, no, there's no other possibility. I know exactly what happened here. It was this. That's not this case. Even the statement from Hank Brennan feels like it's coming from the perspective of defense. Karen Reed attorney Alan Jackson blasts special prosecutor in new statement. All right, well, let's see if that framing is accurate as we go into reader mode. Karen Reed attorney Alan Jackson issued a lengthy statement on Tuesday blasting special prosecutor Hank Brennan over his egregious breach of prosecutorial ethics after Reed's acquittal in the 2022 death of John O'Keefe. Jackson's critical comments come after Brennan on Monday said that a campaign of intimidation and abuse led the jury in Reed's second trial to find her not guilty of second-degree murder and manslaughter. She was convicted of drunk driving. I don't think that's what Brennan said. Brennan said a lot, but I don't think he said that that's what led to the outcome. The article goes on to say the jury handed down its verdict last Wednesday after deliberating over 4 days. Jackson first shared the statement with Boston 25's Ted Daniel. His full statement is as follows. That doesn't surprise me. The jury has spoken, but special prosecutor Hank Brennan, in an egregious breach of prosecutorial ethics, has tried to publicly shame and discredit that very jury. For him to attempt to supplant his personal views for that of the jury is a desperate attempt to save face in the wake of a unanimous rejection of the prosecution's case. I mean, twice. It's a twice unanimous rejection because the fact that they hung the first time means that they were not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. The rules of professional conduct are clear. A prosecutor should support the legitimacy of the justice system and promote public confidence in its operations. Openly attacking a jury's verdict because he disagrees with it undermines that centuries-old edict. I mean, I don't know if Brennan was a prosecutor before he became a defense attorney, but I know for facts that Alan Jackson was for quite a long period of time. Mr. Brennan claims that his investigation was thorough. If that were true, the Commonwealth would have uncovered what we, the defense, uncovered: hidden exculpatory evidence, lies, and perjury by the Commonwealth's own witnesses. Cops covering for other cops, a biased and corrupt lead investigator with personal ties to witnesses, and inculpatory and suspicious conduct by a myriad of witnesses. The only job of an ethical prosecutor is to seek the truth in a just and fair manner. The Commonwealth fell wildly short of that responsibility. Theirs was not an effort to find justice for John O'Keefe. Rather, it was a personal vendetta against Karen Reed by DA Michael Morrissey and his handpicked prosecutors, and it cost the people of Norfolk County millions. The fact is, Karen Reed is factually innocent, and this case never should have gone to trial in the first place. Jackson goes on to say this case is a stark reminder that there has been a complete breakdown in what is supposed to be our justice system. Those in power are more interested in protecting themselves than the citizens that they are sworn to protect. I've seen a lot of people asking that question throughout the entire case, and I am one of the people who has said this case never should have gone to trial in the first place. The statement goes on to say the Commonwealth's defamatory public comments ring hollow to the very constituents they are supposed to serve. It is now crystal clear that disgraced DA Michael Morrissey has no interest in actually seeking justice for John O'Keefe by identifying and prosecuting the real killer or killers. The Commonwealth would rather simply condemn the jury and its fair and lawful verdict. We are thankful for the jury's commitment to truth and that they found their way to a just verdict. But make no mistake, if DA Michael Morrissey had his way, the truth never would have come out in this case. Oh man. It would have been lost somewhere in private and deleted conversations. Damn. AJ's just like, you know what? It is what it is. I want to complete his full sentence in talking about DA Michael Morrissey and the truth. He said it would have been lost somewhere in private and deleted conversations that would never have seen the light of day. Corruption like this doesn't happen in isolation. How many innocent people have been railroaded because of failures in our justice system? We, as citizens, must demand more of our institutions. He went directly at DA Morrissey without name calling, without attacking. Just, hey, where's all the rest of the stuff? That's the end of the statement from Alan Jackson. The article goes on to say, Assistant District Attorney Adam Lally spearheaded the prosecution's effort in Reed's first trial, which ended with a hung jury. Brennan, who replaced him in the retrial, said Monday that he is disappointed in the verdict and the fact that he couldn't achieve justice for O'Keefe and his family. Brennan said that the evidence in the murder case led to only one person. Brennan went on to say, after an independent and thorough review of all the evidence, I concluded that the evidence led to one person and only one person. Neither the closed federal investigation nor my independent review led me to identify any other possible suspect or person responsible for the death of John O'Keefe. Brennan continued, we cannot condone witness abuse, causing participants to worry for their own safety or that of their families. It is my hope that with the verdict, the witnesses and their families will be left alone. The harassment of these innocent victims and the family members is deplorable and should never happen again in a case in this Commonwealth. Last week, Norfolk District Attorney Michael Morrissey issued a 4-word response in response to Reed's verdict. The jury has spoken, period. Boston 25 News has reached out to Brennan and Morrissey for comment on Jackson's statement. What are the chances that we see a response from Brennan? Jackson is saying that Brennan's statements was trying to publicly shame and discredit the jury. And it was his supplanting his personal views for that of the jury. I mean, the fact that it took a jury 3 days to determine if Karen Reed was even driving under the influence is significant because they weren't easily convinced even of that, like at all. After an independent and thorough review of all the evidence, I concluded that the evidence led to one person and only one person. Neither the closed federal investigation nor my independent review led me to identify any other possible suspect or person responsible for the death of John O'Keefe. I can understand why Jackson is saying that this is Brennan trying to undermine the verdict, because the jury did not agree. The point that really jumped out to me was, okay, but even if you feel that way, it has to go one step further. And the one step further is, but can you prove it? Even if you think that, can you prove it? And so I can understand Jackson's looking at this going, she has been acquitted. How are you sitting here saying, well, I concluded that the evidence led to one person? No, I can totally see what he's saying. That's why I wanted to go back and look at this again, which is why Jackson said this is, in his opinion, Brennan supplanting his thoughts. Brennan saying, I concluded that the evidence led to one person. Fair. I looked at this statement and went, look, it's going to make people not want to be witnesses. It's going to make people not want to be jurors, because that's what I was already talking about. But I can also see Jackson or anyone else taking a step back and saying, no, this threatens the integrity of our system because it impacted the jury. I read it differently as people will not want to come forward. Jackson's reading this as, but what's happening outside of the case impacted the jury inside of the case. I can see where he could interpret it that way. Today, a lot happened because everyone's got so much to say, so much to say, so much to say. We also saw a statement from yesterday, Monday, from Hank Brennan, calling out witness intimidation or harassment. And we saw a scathing response coming in or being released while I was streaming today on Tuesday, June 24th, in response to Brennan's statement, calling Brennan's statement unprofessional and a violation of prosecutorial ethics, and calling out DA Michael Morrissey for proceeding with this case in the first place. So we now have Brennan and Jackson with statements. Well, Brennan doesn't point as directly at the defense, but he does. The defense points directly at Brennan. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss updates on your favorite cases, you're going to need the LawNerd app at lawnerdapp.com. That way you can stay in the loop on the cases that matter most to you, and you never know when you're going to catch feelings for a new case. So make sure you get it for free on iOS and Android. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a Law Nerd.